Today we continue with the Diamond Sutra. We've been discussing the Diamond Sutra for a few months now, and we're up to chapter 14, or section 14. Subuddhi, the Tathagata speaks of the perfection of patience, Janti Paramita, which is not, but is merely called perfection of patience. Patience is one of the 6 paramitas. We have 6 prajna paramitas. Liu Du Bo Lo Mi in the Chinese language. The 6 paramitas. What are these 6 paramitas? We really have to review to make sure that we understand. A Bodhisattva practices the 6 prajna paramitas. These 6 are the guidelines for a Bodhisattva to follow. Now, what are these 6? Charity, morality, forbearance, or patience. In here, it is translated as patience or endurance. It's the same. Perfection of patience is the same as forbearance. So, charity, morality, forbearance, diligence, or energy or hard working, meditation, or concentration, or in the Sanskrit language, it's samatha and vipassana, and then wisdom. So these are the 6 paramitas, prajna paramitas, that a Bodhisattva has to follow. Charity is generosity in material and spiritual, in the spiritual sense also. Material and spiritual sense. Almsgiving, donations, giving out your energy to help, rendering out your compassion. Charity. A Bodhisattva practices charity, and we already have gone through it in detail as to the content of charity. So I'm not going to repeat. I'm just giving a general brief review, just some guidelines in reminding you of the 6 paramitas. Because now the Buddha talks about perfection of patience, which is the forbearance paramita. So charity, we know. Morality is conforming to precepts or discipline. One has to follow the morality standard. So one cannot be practicing the Buddhist way without following a very high code of morality standard. A monk has 250 precepts to conform to. A nun, a bhikshuni, has 348 precepts to conform to. A layman has 5 precepts and the 8 precepts, and the samana has 10 precepts to follow to. So there's a whole canon of precepts, of vinaya, of pratimoksa, that one has to follow. So these are just the guidelines. Just precepts is another school of the Buddhist canon, studying just the vinaya, the morality standard, how you observe the morality standards, in your daily routines, what you can do and what you cannot do. If we just summarize it in a few words, what is morality standard? What is discipline? Discipline, morality standard, is something that in your daily life you can do and something you cannot do. There are certain guidelines. Charity is dana in the Sanskrit language. Morality is sila. Forbearance is shanti. And diligence is virya. Meditation is dhyana. Wisdom is prajna. Prajna is the perfection of wisdom. All these 5 need wisdom as the leader to lead the other 5. In other words, you need wisdom to lead charity, to lead morality, to lead forbearance, to lead diligence, and to lead meditation. So wisdom is the most important. What's the study of Buddhism? Nothing about God. Throw that word religion out that door. We don't need that word religion in here. In some sense, we don't need the word Buddha in here too. Throw it out. Wisdom. What's the study of the Buddhist teaching? It's the revelation of your wisdom, the enhancement of your wisdom. It's about studying yourself, not studying an external God, no. Studying yourself. How can you better yourself by studying something external of you? You have to study the inner self of you. You have to understand more of you in relation to the external world. And this paragraph says that Tathagata speaks of the perfection of patience. What is Tathagata? Tathagata in the Chinese language is Ru Lai. That means the Buddha. The Buddha has 10 epithets, 10 names. One of the names is Tathagata. The other name is Bhagava, a world-honored one. So, in this paragraph, it says, the Buddha speaks of the forbearance paramita, which is not a paramita, but is merely called a paramita. There seems to be a contradiction in there if you don't understand the meaning of it. When the Buddha speaks of the forbearance paramita, do not let your thinking attach to it as a fixed dharma. That is called the dharma of forbearance. Of course, you have to practice endurance, you have to practice patience. That is merely called a dharma. But don't attach to the dharma. It's just merely called a dharma. All dharmas arise from causality, simultaneous causality. You really have to study the conception of simultaneous causality, cause and effect. All causes come together to become an effect. All causes come together to become such a dharma of learning to be endurable, endurance, to tolerate, to forbearance. But that is just a dharma. Don't attach to this dharma as something fixed, because a dharma is sunyata. Sunyata is empty. In the Chinese language, it's 空, 法也是空的, 我空, 法空, 法也是空的. Don't attach it as a fixed dharma. The dharma only helps you on the way to become the Bodhisattva and finally to Buddhahood. It's just like when you're in Nanaimo, you're taking the ferry, the boat to Victoria. You need the boat to Victoria, but once you get to Victoria, you got to leave the boat. You got to leave the Dharma. You don't say, this is Buddhism, and I use this Buddhism to arrive at that point. Then you get rid of Buddhism. When you go onto the shore, if you don't get rid of the boat, if you still hang onto the boat, you'll never go ashore. That is just a vehicle for attaining enlightenment. That vehicle has to be abandoned too. That vehicle has to be forsaken too. Even the Dharma has to be forsaken, not to say your own ego. You really have to get rid of your ego to become a better individual. Now, how do you get rid of your ego? You study the Dharma, you learn the Dharma, you practice the Dharma. When your ego is gone, even the Dharma, you let it go. Don't attach to it. No attachment. Let go. Let go of your worries, your disappointment, your fear, your anxiety, your jealousy, your pride, your greediness, your hatred, your anger, your ignorance. Let go of all that. That affects your ego. But after your ego is let go, that knowledge of letting go has to be let go too. You understand what I mean? So, but it's also called the forbearance paramita because you need it. You let go of the boat to Victoria, but you don't blame the boat. It's the vehicle that lets you go there. You need it. You need it, but you don't attach to it. Even the knowledge has to be let go. Don't hang on to the knowledge. Knowledge is from conceptualization. Knowledge is from the discriminating mind. That mind, this discriminating mind, has to be let go too. So what did the Buddha say? You let go of your ego, and once you let go of your ego, all your mental afflictions will be gone. And then you don't have that self, that ego, and then you are at nirvana. But even the Dharma has to be let go. When you let go of the Dharma, you're Dharma free. You empty the Dharma. You're hanging on to the conceptualization has to be let go, and then you attain the Buddhi. So there's three things in here in the Chinese language, because when I speak to you in English, I have to go through my Chinese mind. I'm interpreting it at the same time. 我空法空空空. 我空, your ego has to be let go. 法空, that Dharma that help you to let go of the ego has to be let go. Even both of them has to be empty. You empty out all the emptiness until you're pure and free. Until there's just one purity. That's Bodhi. I don't know how we call it. We call it Bodhi. I don't know what you call it. It does not matter the name. You want to label everything with names? Language is limited, you know. For the sake of calling it, we'll give it a name. But the name is not the essence. The name is just a vehicle. I can call Buddhism another name, but we don't need to create so many names. Just one name will do. But don't hang on to the names. Don't hang on to your discriminating conceptualization. Don't hang on to the fictitious mind. There's a truth mind. That truth mind has to be revealed. That truth mind is, if we call it Buddhi. We can call it Tathagata. We can call it reality. We can call it, Kant called it noumena. You know the philosopher Kant? Called it, there's phenomena, there's noumena. That's the opposite of phenomena. All this is phenomena. In the Chinese languages, 现象与本体. Okay, without hanging on too long onto this paragraph, let's go on to the next. Why, Subhuti? In a past life, when my body was mutilated by Kali Raja, I had at that time no notion of an ego, a personality, a being, and a life. You know what it means? There's a story about this paragraph. This paragraph says, in one of the past lives of the Buddha, Sakyamuni Buddha, in one of his previous lives, we don't have just this one life, you should know about that. We have previous lives, not just this one life. We have a continuation of life. We're in the cycle of reincarnation, which is logical. Time is developed from the past to the present and to the future. If you only have this life, that means there's no past. You're contradicting yourself. Where do you come from then? If you only have this life and no more next life, it's going to be a dangerous society. Because if you only have this life, as long as you're happy, you can do whatever you want. That's a criminal attitude to life. As long as I'm happy, I can kill, I can rape, I can steal, I can lie. Does not matter because I only have this life. But it isn't that way. There's a past. Now is the present. There's a future. You bring your karma onto the future. What is karma? You really have to study it. If you're in a course of Buddhism, you should know what karma is all about. It's a very profound concept of life. It's a very scientific. On the other hand, it's very metaphysical, philosophical, explaining the existence of life. Anyway, in one of the past lives, Buddha Sakyamuni was an ascetic, a monk, an ascetic by the name Zanti. So let me tell you this story. There's a king, and this king at that life, the king, King Kali Raja. Kali Raja is a Sanskrit, is an Indian language. Raja means king. If you go to, what's the street? There is a main street, there's an Indian town. There's a Raja theater. That means that is the royal theater. Raja, R-A-J-A, Raja. So Kali Raja is King Kali. King Kali once went hunting accompanied by his harem of concubines. The king has a lot of wives, a lot of concubines. So one day he went out hunting with his group of concubines, harem of concubines. And after pausing to eat lunch, the king lay down and took a nap while the women wander into the forest to get flowers. And eventually the women came upon the place where the ascetic Kenti, the monk, Zenti, was sitting in meditation. In other words, the women, when they were gathering flowers, they saw a monk in there, and that monk is meditating. And that monk looked very gracious too, is meditating. And they were so overcome by his gracefulness, and they lay flowers before him as an offering. All these women lay flowers before the monk, the ascetic monk, because of his serenity. And Senti, the monk, then proceeded to talk to these women about the philosophy of life that they have never heard of before and about which they were so eager to learn. So they were all sitting in there, and this monk was talking to them about philosophy of life. So on waking, the king went looking for his concubines. And when he saw his women sitting before an ascetic, he flew into jealousy and anger. He had a lot of jealousy with him. And then Shanti, the monk, of course, tried to explain, and he was just teaching them the philosophy of forbearance. The king decided to test Shanti, and he said, "You said that you practice forbearance, and you are teaching such philosophy to my concubines. I think you are just trying to brag yourself and arouse my women's attention and admiration. Now I want to test you whether you are really practicing, forbearance. I want my gods to cut off your feet, your hands, your nose, your ear. And I see if you can endure such cruelty. If you can, then you are a real ascetic practicing forbearance." So that was an order from the king. If I'm the ascetic, I would have run away, tried to run away at least. But Zenti was sitting in there, so the guard started to cut hands off, all the limbs off, ear and nose. Proceeded to cut off the ascetic's hands, feet, ear and nose. But the ascetic Zenti remained unmoved and was able to forbear such cruelty. Not a groan of suffering or anger from him in the process of mutilation. Now the king was moved. He now knew that Zenti is a saint. He was able to endure such cruelty. And he asked for Zenti's forgiveness. "Oh, please forgive me. You are a saint. It's because of my anger, my jealousy, and my hatred that I order my gods to mutilate you." And then Zenti said, "If there is no anger in my heart, may my body be restored to its original conditions with hands, feet, ear, and nose." And as a result of the merit Zenti had accumulated over many lifetimes, his body was instantly restored to its original condition. So this Zenti, this ascetic monk, was a previous incarnation of Buddha Sakyamuni. At one time, he was that monk, and later he became Buddha Sakyamuni. And King Kali was reborn as Kaudinya, the Buddha's first disciple. Because Zenti made a wish that I would be teaching you to get into Nirvana when I become the Buddha. And then so this King Kali later became his disciple in many, many lifetimes later. And his name is Kardinya. So this paragraph says that why Supati, in the past life when my body was mutilated by Kali Raja, I had at that time no notion of an ego, a personality, a being, and a life. He had no notion of that because he does not have an ego, and he didn't have an ego anymore. Do you still remember the concept of ego, personality, being, and life? You have to remember it to understand this sutra. Let us do a brief review. It's important. The sutra says that bodhisattvas must liberate all sentient beings from suffering. So the Buddha's teaching is not just about yourself. Being a bodhisattva, you have to help others first. By helping others, you help yourself. In other words, your compassion is unconditional. You don't say, this is my relatives, I help my relative first, and then my closest friends, and then I start to help others. There's no condition, no discrimination. The bodhisattva is he renders his compassion unconditionally. So, a bodhisattva must liberate all sentient beings from suffering. Although immeasurable number of living beings are thus led to nirvana, or the extinction of reincarnation, yet the truth is that not a living being has been liberated. Why? Because if a bodhisattva still has the notion of an ego, a personality, a being, and a life, he's not a bodhisattva. If a bodhisattva say, I'm helping you, you are my follower, I am your helper, I come to you as a savior, now you listen to me. No, a bodhisattva don't practice that way. A bodhisattva is one with the person being helped. There's no false notion of the giver, the recipient, and the act of giving. It's all one and the same level. No discrimination. We're all one, not two. So what is the meaning of this? When the bodhisattva renders help, renders compassion, he's without an ego, without personality, without beings, without life. What does that mean? You really have to know this fourfold concept or fourfold notion. What is ego? What is this ego? You have to get rid of this ego. You must get rid of this fallacious notion of an ego. What is that ego? That ego is the I. That problem is I, the individual, the subject, the giver. What is this I make up of? What is this ego make up of? The body and the mind, the five skandhas, Wu Yun. What is the ego make up of? What is the person? What am I? Who am I? You got to analyze yourself. Who am I? I am made up of, in common English, is the body and the mind. In the Buddha's profound, detailed teaching, it's not just the general expressions of the body and the mind. What is this body? Body is matter, molecules, protons, electrons, right? The body itself has no spiritual sense in it, just the body though. Your heart, your lung, your limbs, your hands, your flesh, your blood, the body. But other than the body, you also have the other four skandhas, which is the spirituality of you. What is that? There's perception, conception, volition, and consciousness. That is you, that is me. So it's the five skandhas. Skandhas is a Sanskrit word. It spells skhandas. In common English, it's the five aggregates. The five aggregates that make up of I. And you think I have an identity? This is I, this is you, this is my interest, this is my possessions, this is my country. You're not going to intrude into my land. If you're going to intrude into my land, I'm going to do something to defend and drive you out. It is always you and I and they and he It's all this discrimination that creates troubles of the world. These five come together on causality. Each one of these scanthers does not have its own nature. It is impermanent. It is fictitious. It exists though. It is fictitious. It causes an effect. And it dies out later. But we attach to it. We attach to it so much that we can kill for it. We defend it. We protect it. At the expense of others too. So this ego, we're always living like this is a good example. This is an ego hall with all this war surrounding us. We can't see outside because it's so comfortable in that ego zone, comfort zone, that we don't want to go outside. This is I. And we're attached to it. We're attached to the ego. And the Buddha said, let go of your ego. Assuming that we are in this prison, ego prison, this bondage. When the ego is gone, all these walls of the ego crumble down, and what do? You can see the whole outside world, unlimited horizon. Right now you are in restricted wisdom. But when all the walls are crumbled, you can see the whole universe. The Buddha said, when you practiced enough, all the walls of your prisoned ego, of your ego prison, are gone. You can see the whole horizon. Your view is unlimited. Your power is unlimited because you can go out. You go out of your ego prison. We're all locked up in our own ego. We're comfortable in it. That's ego. Personality. What is personality? Personality, ego is I. Personality is you, them, the object, the recipients, the opposite of I, the counterparts that you have been interacting. The whole universe is just you and I and them. All these personalities is all other sentient beings. That's personality. We're attached to them. We're attached to our loved ones. We're attached to our relatives. We're attached to many, many things about many, many beings. Because of our attachment to love, when the loved ones passed away, you cry, you're grief-stricken, you're sorrowful. You went through a lot of difficulties. Personalities. And then beings. What is this? Beings. Being is because you're attached to I, the subject, and them, the objects. So comes the arising of subject and object, the giver and the recipient. You live in a world of duality. You live in a world of love and hatred, rich and poor, healthy and unhealthy. You live in a world of discrimination, of stigmatization, of labeling. We all live in that world. The Buddha said that's not the right attitude to life. You don't stigmatize. You don't label. There shouldn't be any discrimination. It should be all purity, the purity of mind. So, beings include not just the sentient beings, it includes everything. So, ego, personality, and beings. By the way, what is the universe? Time and space. I always repeat, what is this whole universe made up of? In two dimensions, time and space. Space is what? Sentient beings and non-sentient beings, ego, personality, and beings. That's space. So let go of space. How about life? What does life mean? Because the fourfold concept include ego, personality, beings, and life. What does life mean? Life means continuation of time. That permanence fallacy. We always think that we'll live permanently. We always think that things will remain. Things will be the same. Things will be unchanged. But we are contradicting ourselves. we see everything is changing, everything is fleeting. There's nothing that is not changing. Nothing is permanent. But yet, we always forget about that concept. We continue to be greedy. We continue to be jealous. We continue to be doing what we shouldn't be doing. So there's time. We're attached to time. We're attached to the continuation of life. We're attached to permanence. There's a poem which is quite interesting in the Chinese language. And I really have to repeat it in the Chinese first. 一日无常道，方知梦里人。万般带不去，唯有业随身。Let me translate it for you. Only when one day death comes do we realize life is but a dream. Nothing you can take with you except your own karma. You can take your bank account, your property, your house, your boat, your wife, your children, nothing you can take with you. What can you take with you? Your karma. Bad karma, good karma, indifferent karma. So you watch your action, your speech, your thought. All that register as karma. Nothing tangible you can take with you when you died. Not even your body. You treasure this body. You treasure these 5 skandhas. You selfishly, egoistically treasure your body, but you have to let go one day. Not even your body you take with you. Some people say, oh, Venerable, you are too negative. You make me very disappointing. Life is not interesting anymore. We're going to die. No ego, no personality, no life, no beings. Everything is so gray, so hopeless. Do you think that way? No. Because we know all this concept, we know that we have to work hard. Because we know that everything is impermanent. Because we know that there is suffering in the world, we have to find a way to get away from suffering. 2,600 years ago, when the Buddha was a prince, he was locked out from the outside world because the king didn't want his son to be an ascetic monk. He just wanted his son to enjoy the luxuries of life, not going out. But one day he got out, and he saw, it's good to repeat it for people who have been here for quite a while. It's good to repeat it and so that you know about it. He went out the city, and he saw 4 phenomena. One is sickness, one is death, and one is aging. And there's another one, he saw a monk walking gracefully, and he asked, what do you do? I saw aging, I saw sickness, I saw death. I'm learning the way for liberation. My teacher is Sakyamuni Buddha. We'll learn how to get away from suffering. Because we know that it's suffering, we want to find a way, not just for ourselves, for all sentient beings to be out from suffering. Because everything is impermanent, we want to look for permanence. Because everything is so negative, we want to be positive. You don't get drowned into the ocean of negativeness, of disappointment. You want to get away from it. So knowing the negatives of life would stimulate you to find the positives of life. That's how you look at it. Not too pessimistic about it. You have to get the optimistic, the positive attitude from the negativism. All right, let's go on. I haven't really explained the paragraph. So let's get to the next page. Why? Because in the past, when my body was dismembered, if I still held the conception of ego, personality, of being alive, I would have stirred by feelings of anger and hatred. This is just to say the ascetic monk, Zhenti, didn't even stir any feeling of anger and hatred in him, because he has already abandoned, forsaken the fallacious concept of the ego, the personality, the beings in life. Next paragraph. Subhuti, I also remember that in the past, during my former 500 lives, I was a Zendishri and held no conception of an ego, personality, being, and a life. This is just to mention that at one lifetime, the Buddha Sakyamuni was another ascetic practicing egoless attitude, contemplation of egolessness. Next paragraph. This is why, Subhuti, Bodhisattva should forsake all conception of form and resolve to develop supreme enlightenment mind, Anuttara Samya Sambuddhi. Their mind should not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and dharma. Their mind should abide nowhere. That's a very important paragraph, Our minds should abide in nowhere. Certainly, our minds should not abide in wealth, reputation, greediness, hatred. Then you say, our minds should abide in where? Nowhere. Because there's nothing to be obtained. We just chanted the Heart Sutra. No sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no ear. Nothing. Why? There is nothing to be obtained. If there is something to be obtained, that's greediness. Oh, please help me. I want to go to heaven. You're greedy for the heaven. You still have the conception of heaven in your mind. Heaven is good though. In heaven, it's just happiness. But you still have to go through your reincarnation cycle. You still have to die. You may enjoy millions of years of longevity. No, not the kind of sufferings that you have as in this world, in this universe, but you still have to, you are still in reincarnation. We already gone into details as to the 6 paths of reincarnation, and we're not going to mention it again, otherwise we can't finish this chapter. So, we should forsake all conception of form. We should forsake all conception of form. What do we get from that sentence? Anything tangible. So we should forsake all forms. What is this forms in? The crude, superficial meaning of it, that form is whatever we can see, we can smell, we can taste, we can hear, we can touch. All our senses are interacting with forms. Sound is a kind of form. That's the definition. Form is not just for the eyes, the sound. By the way, as an individual, how do we interact with the world? The Buddha expounded another canon of thought, the consciousness canon. There is a school of thinking, just study consciousness. We call it Vujnana Matrata. There's another school of thought. There's thousands of literature about the mind. How does the mind work? If you study the Buddhist teaching, you must study that school of thought, 唯识法相中, the school of thought, the study of consciousness. You see, Buddhism is not about worshiping a god, Now we should be clear on that. It's about studying consciousness, studying about your mind, studying about your mind in relationship to others, studying how to better yourself in relationship to others, studying how to better other people in order to better yourself. One cannot just better yourself without bettering other people, because we're living as a group. We're living in unison. We're not just living in Canada and just safeguard the interests of Canada. We're international. No discrimination. One. We are one. We're not two. We're one. So, let's forsake all forms. And in the crudest meaning, let's forsake all attachment to wealth, all attachment to reputation, status, money, possessions, material. Those things won't give you happiness. If you're always in constant pursuit of those things, by all means, illegally and legally, you get into a lot of mental afflictions. Don't attach to form. Let's start that spiritual odyssey. The odyssey of knowing yourself. The odyssey of knowing your own mind. The odyssey of knowing consciousness. The odyssey of studying the wisdom in you. That is the God in you. Why do you have to look for it outside? That God is right inside. And that God is not explainable. That God is beyond conceptualization, beyond words. Then how do you feel it? Sometimes you get a glimpse of it in meditation. You can only feel it when your mind is at peace. You can only get that glimpse of tranquility, that glimpse of peacefulness when your mind is at peace. You won't be happy when your mind is not at peace. And I'm thinking of another poem, which I have to translate into Chinese first. 春有百花，秋有月，夏有凉风，冬有雪。若无闲事挂心头，便是人间好时节。Spring comes with innumerable flowers. Autumn shines the night with the loveliest moon. Summer has the gentle breeze, and winter gives white snow. You think each of the 4 seasons has these unique features that gives you that moment of peace. But let me tell you, I say your best season is when you have no obstacle in your mind. It does not matter. The only peace would come when you have no obstacle in your mind, when you have no more mental afflictions. Remember the Heart Sutra we just chanted? When there's no obstacle in your mind, there's no fear, no worry, no anxiety, no depression, no jealousy, no hatred, no arrogance, no fallacious views. When there's no obstacle in your mind. It does not matter what kind of season. Peace will only come when you have no obstacle in your mind. When you have that obstacle in your mind, there's fear, there's anxiety. Those are mental afflictions that we have to learn to get rid of them. That's why we have to get rid of our ego. That ego binds us. What does that ego use to bind us? If we personify ego as a Mara, if we personify ego as a devil, what kind of tools the devil use to bind us? Mental afflictions. He creates greediness for you, jealousy for you, hatred, anger, ignorance. They create all these things for you. And you fall for it. We all fall for it. Because we're so comfortable with that evil. He's the closest friend. How close is your friend? What is the closest? We have a friend, a bosom friend. Because what a bosom is here. How close is your friend? The best friend is very close to you. How close? Your heart, your bosom, your mind. It's so close that is actually nobody else, your own mind. You think there is under the devil, which is a third party. You think of a first party, a second party, a third party. You always think that as a third party. That's not a third party. That is a first person singular. I, me, that ego, that devil, that Mara is nobody else. It's your own mind. You create your own mind. You create your own mind and you fall for it. It's interesting. It's like psychology. Nothing about worshiping. It's psychology.